You are now listening to Sentinel Soundbites.
So we are live. All right.
Hello and welcome back to the Sentinel Soundbites podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Bennell, and we're excited to give you another look inside of ASCTE, the people that make us who we are and the processes that make this place so special. And this time of year, it would be hard not to talk about what the subject of today's podcast is. So we have joining us our college counselor, Miss Sheri Crigger, and the first alumni to take part in the Sentinel Soundbites podcast, Mr. Landon Grove, in the class of 2026. So appreciate both of you taking the time to chat with us. And we'll start with Miss Crigger. Can you just educate us really quickly? I guess kind of labeled your title, but what your role is here in a couple sentences, and explain kind of what you do here at ASCTE.
Yeah, so I am the college counselor, and my job is anything related to college and helping students in all grade levels. So I can help you figure out your ACT, SAT when you want to take that, or applying to college, financial aid, scholarships, whatever it is that relates to college.
Very cool. Thank you for that. And then Landon, like I said, first alumni, just graduated a couple of weeks ago. Can you educate us on kind of who you are, where you're from, and where you're going to school now that you have went through the process?
Absolutely. So, as you said, my name is Landon. I'm an alumni from the class of 2026, and my future plans are to go to the George Washington University to study international affairs. As of now, I'm from Huntsville, Alabama.
Cool. Thank you for that. Now, Ms. Crigger, I'm going to bounce back to you. And Landon and his classmates just graduated a few weeks ago. And as we're talking about college counseling, I think we'd be remiss not to first lead off with celebrating the class of 2026. If there's any kind of notes or thoughts or just your experience with that class as a whole, maybe from start to finish, that as we've got these guys out of the building and we moved on, that you reflect back on this class and the process that you went through with them in the college counseling.
Okay, they were a great class, as all of them are, but this is a really great class. We had 93 students in the class of 2026, and they were really great at dreaming big. And so they applied to a lot of colleges, got accepted to a lot of colleges. But one thing that I think is really great is they each made their own path, whatever that was. So some of them are staying in state, some are going out of state. They're going to all women's colleges, they're going to military academies, they are going all over the country and also overseas. We have one student going out of the country. So I think looking back, that is one thing that I think they really worked hard on.
Sure. And Landon, more specific to you than just your whole class, but obviously a chance for you to kind of address your class one more time. You didn't think you'd get another chance, but as you think about the class you graduated with, I really want to talk about your experience, and you're a local, like you mentioned, from the area, and you're going to school at George Washington. And like, is that something that before you got to ASCT you would have ever dreamed was even in the realm? Is that something that kind of like came up as you got here, was exposed to different, or like, is this a dream school you knew you were going to go to when you were 12 years old? Talk to us a little bit about that.
So, the George Washington University is definitely not something I would have thought I would go to. It's very different than what I thought I was going to do when I first came to ASCTE. I had my heart set on being an engineer. That's what I was going to do. And so as I went through the college process and I learned more about engineering while I was here, I realized like the George Washington University was something that I was really interested in, and their programs were something that I liked. And so now that I've gone through that process, that is something that I've looked into, and that's for me.
Cool. Well, appreciate that. And I want to move. So we've talked about the class, but I want to talk organization as a whole here at ASCTE. And one thing in my role, showing people around the building a lot and tours and people getting to talk, and Landon, you've probably been a part of this as well, is one of the common questions we get is like, what do your kids do when they graduate? Because we are unique. We're not necessarily that state department, we're our own state agency and curriculum and all gradings, all different. And so people ask, well, what do your kids do when they graduate? And I think the easy answer is they go to college, but can you kind of talk from your perspective of what the answer to that is?
Hey, my answer is they do whatever they want, which is, I think, important, again, to say they're choosing their own path. But we do have students going to all different types of schools. To Landon's point, we are a cyber and engineering school. We have lots of kids who want to do cyber-related fields, computer science, or engineering-related fields, in all different fields of engineering. But we also have kids who are doing nursing. We had a lot interested in neuroscience this year. We have history and data science. So I think that what they're learning here, the engineering and the physics and math, all the things that they're learning here, can be applied to a lot of different areas. And so I don't feel like they're going way off the deep end if they say they're doing something totally different. And if they did, that would be fine too. But I think that they are each choosing what they're interested in. And sometimes it's a class that they took here that sparked an interest in something else, like all the kids with neuroscience this year. I think that's a combination of their biotech class, their AP psychology class, wellness, different things that they're picking up along the way that kind of sparked their interest. And so they're not all doing the same thing. We also have kids going into the military. We have a student who's going to be taking a couple of years to do a church mission. And so they are doing different things. We're not all going down the same path, but we want to support them in whatever that is.
Very good. And Landon, I'm going to, ask you to talk about somebody as they're sitting beside you, but and we're going to talk about the process of what Ms. Crigger goes through. But as you reflect, now that you've, for our sake, kind of made it to our finish line and getting ready to take off to the next thing, as you reflect back on like early process, maybe first interactions with Ms. Crigger, whenever that was, what can you kind of talk about from the beginning and what you remember of the initial conversations, whether it was your freshman, sophomore year, whenever it was that you guys first interacted, to then getting to the finish line, and just kind of your reflection on that whole, from the start of the journey to where you are sitting today?
Yeah. So I came into this school as a sophomore, and that's actually when I had my first conversation with Miss Crigger. I started in my sophomore year to talk about early college and dual enrollment and all those things. So we walked through that whole process, and I did dual enrollment for several years. Once I got to the actual applying to college process, that started in junior year rather than senior year. And we started talking about how do we plan for what's coming up in senior year. It's very busy. Everybody's applying to a lot of different places. There's a lot going on. And that's when my conversation first started with her. And
Perfect. Well, and coming in as a sophomore, that's such a unique experience in itself here. Now that he's talked about you a little bit and took it easy on you, so thanks, Landon, for that. But
Yeah.
can you explain maybe to a family who has a student who's incoming or maybe a prospective student, kind of what the process is like for you? Because people hear college counseling, oh, she just works with like the seniors and maybe the juniors. But can you talk about like the early process? Like you get in front of everyone at our school. So can you kind of talk about what that looks like for you and how you've built your program, so to say?
Yeah. So I feel very strongly about that. Landon was a model student coming to me early, but my ultimate goal is that everybody, students and parents, have whatever resources they need to be able to figure out their college plan, whatever it is that they want to do. And so, to that end, I do try to meet with 9th and 10th graders at least twice a year as a class. We talk about GPA. We look at their transcript. What does this mean? How does the college look at your transcript? That kind of thing. And we do some activities about like finding reliable college sources and that kind of thing. So we do that along the way so that what I want is that you're not thinking about college for the first time when you come into senior year. In junior year, I talk to them more often. I actually, as a class, I asked all of the juniors to make an appointment with me, just a short, like 10, 15 minutes to meet with each kid to kind of see what they're doing, maybe give them some suggestions if they were kind of, if they needed help in a certain direction. But certainly senior year, we're spending lots of time together. But when I say resources, I also mean for parents. So I have a monthly parent meeting. Of course, we do it on Zoom so that parents who are not in town can also get the information. But I try to do that on a different topic. And so the topics are scholarships or financial aid, college applications, ACT, SAT, GPA, those kinds of things, so that like I'm trying to not overwhelm everybody all at once, but have just one meeting a month. Those are recorded and sent out. So if you can't make the meeting, you can listen to it later. But the other thing is I'm trying to also provide some resources for like researching. And so Landon was super helpful with that last year. He had created a spreadsheet for himself as he was researching colleges, just information he was looking at for each college. And so I wanted to send something out to the senior class. And so he shared that with me. We tweaked it. We went over like how we could make it accessible for each student. And so we shared that just as a starting point and suggestion for how to research colleges.
Sure. And I'm going to skip Landon for a second to stay on the
Yeah.
thing, because you kind of talk to this, and I alluded earlier to like grades and everything we do here at ASCT is pretty unique. So you also, on top of having to educate our students about the process, are also educate and maybe not now that time's went on and we've had several graduating classes, but you're also educating colleges on what our process looks like and our school profile and how grades translate. So can you kind of give us a little peek behind the curtain of like why that is, what that is, like what you're trying to communicate to these schools about this school that does mastery grading, how that translates to them, and just kind of paint the picture of that for us? Because it's a little, if a family hears, oh, this is how they do the school and grading, well, how does a college interpret a 4.5 in an engineering course or something along those lines? So can you kind of talk at us about that a little bit?
Yeah, it is different. And so the first thing I want to say, which is what I say to the students and parents all the time, is our students are doing great. We are not having it's not causing a problem anywhere that our grading scale is different. I have actually learned a lot about that from talking to colleges, that there are schools across the United States that have grading scales of 7 and 13 and 20-point scale, like things that are very different to us also. So colleges are accustomed to seeing different grading scales. So that's a good thing. But we have our school profile, which is on the website, and everything that we are sending to a college, like when a student applies to a summer program, which could be any grade level, or to a college for admission, there is a transcript usually that needs to go. And so every time we send a transcript, we are sending information about our school. So we have a school profile that's a little lengthier, that's linked on our website. But we also have what we call a college profile, which is just a couple of pages that goes with every transcript. So when we send a transcript anywhere, and it's a school profile, every school has one, and that is considered a snapshot of your school. So it is saying, we have this, 400 students here. We have these grade levels. We're a statewide magnet school, and we focus on these things. So we're saying all of these things that are, the basics of ASCTE, but it also shares what courses we offer, what AP courses we offer. It's sharing the mastery grading scale. If they want to convert our GPA to another scale, it's got a suggested conversion chart on there. But it's giving the basics of our academics, because what the colleges are doing with that is they are looking at each student within the context of the school. And so they need to understand a little bit more about mastery grading, a little bit more. And so that's there. And then, of course, all of the contact information that links them back to the school website. And I did forget to mention, it also has information about internships, because that is a really unique thing that we have here. And it takes up so much time of senior year that we want people to understand, like, this is a big component of our education here.
Sure. Well, Landon, I'll include you back here now, and we've gotten tons of information. I'm going to ask you to kind of talk on more of the advice side. So you're not necessarily providing information here, but if you could, this information to a prospective family, if you could talk to prospective student family and they come up to you, and Landon, I know you just graduated, what advice would you give maybe someone entering the ASCTE journey about what this college counseling process looks like, and maybe something that you wish you would have known then that you know now, or what you would just impart on them is like the most important thing to lean into in this whole process?
Okay. So, one of my biggest pieces of advice is not to get too caught up in, oh, I need to have this extracurricular and I need to have this grade and I need to have this long, long list of all the different things I've done, because ultimately that's not what any college is looking for. Like Miss Crigger said, they're examining you based on the context of your school and your community and your resources. And it's not always easy to understand just at the first little sentence of saying that. But what that means is if you only have so much to achieve in your school, the college is going to look at you on that scale. They're not going to compare you to somebody from somewhere else in the country and the world who has so much more or so much less than you. One thing that I wish I knew before that I know now is about financial aid and scholarships. That's a really important component of applying to colleges. But one thing that people don't normally tell you is when it comes to merit aid and financial need-based aid from colleges, that package often decreases over your 4 years while you're in that school. That's not something people tell you often. And so I would say to prospective students, look at that when you're researching colleges. What does that, do they decrease your package over 4 years? And what does that look like? What does that mean for you and your family? So
Perfect.
those are two of the biggest things I have.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Now, Ms. Crigger, to jump back for you, kind of a similar, if you were talking to someone who maybe is considering coming here or is in the pipeline has been admitted and they know they'll be here in the fall, what advice would you give to them? Maybe that they can help themselves early on in the process and maybe get ahead of the eight ball a little bit. Like any advice to those, or just that you would impart in general to someone that maybe has a high school student? It's man, this world of college is so much, and we have an expert sitting here with us that can give us some advice.
Well, the whole college process is more complicated than it used to be. And I have a child at home who is at 11th grade, so I am doing this process as a parent as well as doing it here at school. But I think one thing that's important is getting information early, and that's why like the parent meetings that we host are open to all grade levels. And they are recorded so that people can watch them later. And so I think that's important, that I think sometimes parents don't and students don't clue into thinking about college until it's later. So I would say starting earlier. Landon did a great job of that. Like, I am open to meet with students anytime. And so in 10th grade, Landon is like, "Hi, I'm Landon. These are my plans," which is good because that helps me help Landon if he needs help. And I think asking questions, because I think sometimes there are students who will come to me and they'll say, "I have been trying to get into my account, having trouble with an account or a transcript or something, and I've been doing this for weeks, and it's been 3 weeks, and I still," and I'm like, "Oh, like let's just call them, let's just do whatever." And I wish that the student had asked me sooner and not suffered for 3 weeks waiting. And so I think starting early in every part of the process is a good thing.
Great. Well, Landon, I'm going to allow you now. Like, this is kind of, I guess, semi-unexpected when you walked across stage at graduation. You didn't dream that you'd be back in a couple of weeks recording a podcast. So are there any, like, just general thoughts that while, you've walked back in the building, you've been gone for a couple of weeks that you want to share while you're here, or maybe experience of whole? You can remove the college piece if you want to, and just kind of general ASCT experience while we got you on camera and in front of a microphone, and lasting thoughts you'd like to give.
Okay. Oh my goodness.
I really put you on the spot there.
So I'll stick with the college for just a second. I just want to say that the college process doesn't end at being accepted. Like, it's not, oh my gosh, I was accepted and now I'm done. It was not it. So I gave my commitment to GW, and that was not the end of it at all. I still had a lot more to go. There were more scholarships to apply to and programs to apply to, and that's going to be at every college. I had to find a roommate, and I had to find what room I was going to live in, how I was going to get there. And then you still have to figure out, like, and do I need to accept this aid? Because there are situations where you don't accept scholarships and you do accept scholarships. So that was another thing I had to do. And make sure that I'm still communicating with the college and all those people there. So I just want to say that being accepted is not where the college process ends. Um, as far as being a senior, since I've left this school, I've honestly felt like I've been more prepared than a lot of other people I've interacted with. And that's just to say that being a student who has lived in the dorm, I already know what to look for going into college and going to live on my own in a dorm at a university. And having courses that are structured different than a normal school, that is another thing that I just feel like I'm more prepared to go into college.
All right, so this college counseling process with Ms. Crigger is very individualized. I mean, you're talking about meeting with every single student. And so certainly you were looking out for the well-being of the individual. One thing that I think is very unique at ASCTE and our culture very much leans into is the support for one another for our students, of pulling for each other, they're on teams literally inside of our building. And as I think back on the class of 2026, and one of my favorite days, and we talk about, we look forward to today here is decision day. It's like, ripping the robe open and showing what school you're going to. And so, Landon, I want to kind of focus with you on this. The college process, incredibly stressful, incredibly competitive. Not only are you competing, like you talked about, with people all over the world, in theory, you're competing with people in our building as well in certain situations. Can you talk about like what that is like, because y'all have such this unique chemistry in the way you guys cheer for each other and this camaraderie amongst your peers in the middle of this chaotic time where everything's about you. Hey, it's your college. What's your future? What are you doing? But yet you guys all celebrate each other. Can you kind of talk about that from your perspective and like what that was like going through when you know that everyone's kind of got the weight of the world on their back? They're trying to figure out the paperwork and the deadlines and the scholarships, but equally being able to celebrate other people as well. Can you kind of talk about your experience with that, how that worked for you? Because it's very easy to get consumed with, I'm going to college. Well, you had 90 something classmates that all are trying to figure it out too. So just kind of talk to me a little bit about what that was like going through a very stressful time as an individual, knowing that other people are in it, your peers are going through the interviews and the things, and finding ways to kind of support and pull for each other and what that was like for you.
Yeah, so it is a really stressful time, and everybody's a little bit, they're just very invested into it. But I feel like, even though a lot of times it's hard to talk about it, or it feels like it's going to be hard to talk with other students, it's actually not here. So for me personally, there was a large group of me and some friends who would sit in the college corner every day for at least an hour every day. And we would sit there and we would do college work together, finding scholarships, sharing information, figuring out what we're going to do. And we would extend that to the rest of the senior class. And on the note of decision day, that was a time that everybody could get excited for every senior, and make everybody feel supported in what decision they were making. And leading up to that decision, that did not stop. We would do that every day leading up to that decision. When somebody would come and have a conversation with me or just talk about college or whatever, just because you're not going to an Ivy League you're still going to be supported. It's very easy to have those kinds of conversations.
Yeah, and I guess that, you know, and Miss Crigger probably could open with the fact that ours is unique. Like I think of my high school experience, and the counselor that was helping me with my college things was also the one that helped my class schedule in high school, and was also like kind of my emotional like they wore a bunch of hats, and our deal is here unique that you just get to focus on the college piece. But I'd imagine that comes with a good bit of mental and maybe emotional counseling as well as they're going through that process. So can you kind of talk about from your perspective that of you are helping these individuals, and it is a very individualized process, but there's a collective celebration as well, and like what that's like for you, and witnessing that and seeing year after year the way our classes compete, but also come together, and like what that's like for you.
Yes, it's delightful. This class has been really especially good at that, I think. Like Landon is right. They sat in my college corner, which I was so happy for them to do, to work on things. But they were doing things like having each other read their essays, and sometimes they would ask me to read an essay, but they would get different perspectives, and they were sharing information about scholarships and things like that. So it was a very cooperative spirit, and I do love that about them. And I think there was a lot of respect between the kids, and I think there always is here at ASCTE, for them to choose their own path and for each to celebrate each other. That you're going to Auburn and I'm going to Alabama, and it's okay. We're still friends, and I'm happy for you because you found the place that you wanted. And I'm happy for me because this is the place that I wanted and that is best for me. And so I think they did a really great job of that. And like I said, we had kids going to military, all different kinds of schools, and they all got sincere cheers for each other on decision day. It is a fun day.
That to me has been one, and when coming to work here, I didn't have any expectation, but I certainly didn't have the expectation that every year we would have multiple, it feels like now, members of our class go to service academies or directly enlist. And like, is that something that was like on your radar from the start? And as it has went on, has that, I guess, surprised you at the amount of involvement? I mean, we are right here in the Arsenal. We're in Huntsville. It kind of makes sense to a degree, but like, what's that kind of been like for you as that's grown? And we every year seem to have more and more students that are going to a military academy or directly to service.
I'm not completely shocked just because I've been doing this for a lot of years, but yeah, I do think there's a great respect for that here. I think we have quite a few military families here. What is interesting always to me is like the parents were in the Marine Corps, but their kids go into Army and they're okay with it, and I love that they're okay with it. But yeah, I think there's a lot of support for that here, and I do want to mention also, like, as they are going through that process, we've had people come in. We have colleges come and visit, and we encourage students in all grade levels to um, take advantage of those visits. So they set up in the college corner, and then kids can come either between class or like during Boost to visit with whatever college it is. We've had visitors from different service academies. We also this year did a military service day.
Mhm.
Is that what I called it? And where we had all branches in the military, ROTC programs, um, reservists. We had lots of people, and then colleges, military colleges. Marion Military came, and as well as the service academy, so that students could see all the different types of opportunities. Because I think a key to all of that is understanding what is available. And so, like, we had a couple of seniors who have chosen to do ROTC programs to help pay for college that wasn't originally their plan way back in the beginning. Like in ninth grade, they didn't know that was an opportunity or an option. And so sometimes I think that just the exposure is helpful for kids to see what even is available.
Well, I want to add one more as we're kind of going here. You mentioned having the colleges come and the represent, I've worked in schools, public, private, big, small, and you get those recruiters. We're a little unique. It feels like every other week there's like a school president here. The number of these university presidents are coming to recruit our kids. And Landon, I'll start with you. Like, what was that like? And I know Mississippi State's president's been in the building. Auburn's president's been in the building. Amongst Alabama's new president's been in the building. And directly are trying to recruit our kids out, go down the list. Like, what was that like, that you weren't just speaking to a college recruiter a lot, you'd be speaking to the lead administrator of these universities?
Yeah, so that was not expected at all. It was really, really shocking when I found out we would have college presidents. But then I would soon be giving tours to several of those presidents throughout my time. And the one that I can recall the most was UAH's president, Dr. Carr. And he was great in that, yes, he was persuading you to come to UAH. It's great, but that was not his sole reason for being here. His goal was to let our students know, and my senior class know, that really you need to find the place that is best for you, and whatever is best for you, um, the people around you are going to support you in that endeavor. And so that was great to hear from a university president, that they're not just trying to win us over. All these universities are trying to see us go to the place that we are going to be supported at.
Perfect. Well, appreciate that. And I know it was not the scope of conversation today, but wanted to give you a chance while you were here one more time to leave your mark. And Ms. Crigger, appreciate the work that you do in seeing our students, supporting our students. And I guess, to steal a term we use at the start of their journey, is kind of launch week. You really are on the launching, the back end to launch them into the next thing. So appreciate the work you do there. Landon, thank you for coming back and joining us, and look forward to keeping up with you. And Ms. Crigger, look forward to working alongside you for a long time to come. And just rinse, repeat, it's another class coming. So thank you guys so much for being with us.
Absolutely.
So we are live. All right.